we're at the time, so I would wish to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Tum Tumay-Waitin, or Belcare Park, is home to an ancestral village of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. We're thankful to conduct our work within their territory. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:06. And prior to looking for approval of the agenda, I'd just like to make a couple of quick comments. It was raised last week. People were concerned that there was one question or comment per item. And I, as chair, held firm. I just wanted to provide some clarity. I intend to do that going forward. During the second part of the meeting, you need to have your video on and your name if you'd like to speak, and that needs to be in place when you're approached by the chair. If you're not there, we'll move on. And I would ask and appeal that people be civil and positive and not make negative or pejorative comments about others in the meeting. So thank you very much, and we'll move right now to looking for approval of the agenda, and I'm going to ask Lorna to outline the amendment if I could, please. Lorna?
Yes, Your Worship, there is an item from a letter from Carrie Palmer Isaac, Chair of the Board of Education, School District number 43, a letter dated October 28, 2021, regarding the 2022 Mental Health Task Force. And we would like to add that as an on-table item, Your Worship. Okay,
so we've got a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Do we have a counselor looking to do that? Counselor Clark,
Moved.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Moving it. And Counselor, I'll go with Counselor Snell. Thank you very much. So it's on the table for discussion. Any discussion? Seeing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. And I know that it carries in the affirmative. Thank you very much. Okay, we're on to the adoption of the minutes, the regular council meeting of January 10th, 2022. And I'll look for a motion moved by Councillor Wilder moving, and Councillor Snell seconding. So it's on the table that the minutes from the regular council meeting held January 10th, 2022 be adopted. So council, any comments on the agenda? On the minutes? Okay, seeing none, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
In the affirmative, and I note that it carries in the affirmative. Thank you. All right, we have delegations and presentations. We don't have any, but we're on to reports. And I'm pleased to ask Lorna to, excuse me, I'm asking Lorna to introduce the next report. So Lorna, if you could go ahead and introduce, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I would note that just one little minor correction on Schedule A of this report. There are 8 motions as listed, but there are really only 7. There was a numerical correction that the computer automatically did. So there are 7 motions. I would just note that.
Okay.
And I would like to say that I'm going to introduce Sartaj Grewal, who is our building inspector, who has taken over this file from Paul Wiskar, our former building official, who has dealt with this property for several years, as you'll see on the chronology for this property. And I would just like to introduce Sartaj at this time, and I'll be supporting him on the introduction of this report.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, please, Sartaj, and welcome, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you. First, I want to start off that Lorna and I worked very hard on this report, and Paul had a very significant role in this report. And I've taken over kind of for Paul in the middle here of this. And the recommendation is council adopts resolutions 1 through 7 inclusive attached to Schedule A to this report regarding the potential remedial action requirement for Lot A. And the purpose of that is the council to use powers given to it under the community charter to address hazardous and nuisance conditions on the private property identified by staff. A bit of background about the property is The proposed remedial action requirement relates to a tent on the property and a shelter, which was constructed using an overturned boat hull. Both these structures are located on Lot A. The registered owners of the property are James Daniel Rockwell, James Lee Middleton, and Chloe Dubois. As you can see in Schedule B, that the owners are also in lease of the adjacent foreshore from the Vancouver Port Authority for the purpose of constructing and maintaining a dock. On July 17th, a fire broke out on the wooden dock and consumed most of it. There's pictures attached to this report of 2 inspections that were done, one by Paul and one by myself, of the severely damaged dock. However, a lot of the dock has actually been removed now. It's been cut out and taken away. Prior to Paul's retirement, he did provide a chronology which is a Schedule D, and conducted an inspection on July 28th, just a few days after the fire. And I also went out on August 24th. I had the opportunity to go out there, which those pictures are attached in Schedule F. And on January 17th of this year, Lauren actually had a chance to go by and observe the property as well. Our main concerns are that the tent on the property is built with large sheets of wood on the roof to presumably increase rain resistance. Looking at it as a building official, it looks dilapidated. It doesn't look built to any sort of code. And our main concerns are that it could be prone to collapse under snow load or some sort of seismic event. The tent also contains a wood stove inside, which I believe is very prone to having some sort of another fire on the property, which we absolutely do not want. And we were unable to view the footings of the tent or the other structure because of the waste and debris and overgrowth of vegetation around the property. And the other structure actually is the boat hull shelter, which is the boat hull that has been overturned and placed on top of some sort of lumber. I'm not sure. It does, again, it wasn't easy to see, but it's very easy to tell that this is not built to any sort of code. It's very dangerous from what we can see. The property also contains a significant amount of waste and debris, which the village staff presently intend to address through the order to comply under the Good Neighbor bylaw. And we've had multiple communications with the owners of the property to no avail in the past. Paul had multiple emails sent, phone calls, and on November 25th, the village sent a demand letter to the owners regarding the waste and debris on the property under the Good Neighbor bylaw, which is followed up by an email on November 26th to the owners. We did, however, get an email back from Ms. Dubois that she will be removing the dock, but not the tent and the boat hull structure. On January 6th, Ms. Dubois wrote the village advised that the owners had made progress with the cleanup of the site, but did not advise that they were now prepared to remove the modified tent or boat hull structure. The proposed remedial work is a tent accommodation is not permitted use in the zoning bylaw. So the village staff are recommending the modified tent and shelter be both completely removed, and we will ask the owners to do that. If not, then the village will hire contractors and work at a timeline for that to be removed. Lorna, if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
I think I would just say that the goal, we've been working with Michael Mall on this, establishing the procedures outlined in the report. Michael Mall's our lawyer with Young Anderson. And the goal of the village is to have that site cleaned up. And so that is what we're working towards. And because of all the years this has been dealt with, it is now felt that we would like to proceed as recommended in the report.
Lorna, in terms of next steps for this process, is it to move the Schedule A?
Yes, your worship,
Okay,
that is our request.
okay. I believed it was, but I just want to be sure that we're not jumping ahead. Okay, we'll look to Counselor to move the Schedule A 1 to 7, I believe, and Counselor looking for a motion to get it on the floor. Counselor Snell, thank you moving it. And Counselor, who's seconding it, please?
I can second this.
Okay, Counselor Wilder seconding, so it's on the floor right now. And it's now available for discussion by council. So Counselor Drake.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question in the description. It seems like it's been a long-standing issue. Appreciate the thoroughness of the report. I have one question with respect to item 7 that has to do, if I understand correctly, and I'd appreciate being corrected if I fail to note this. If council passes this, basically the owners are given a period of time, as I read this, 90 days to take the steps that, should they fail to take them, the council will simply have done by contractor. But, and Paul, let me pause there. Am I correct in that layperson's description of what's happening here?
No, you want to field that, please?
Yes, that is correct, your worship.
Okay, then I notice under what is now, instead of 8, motion 7, B, that we would retain a contractor, but the second you would post a notice advising that the village will be demolishing the structures in no less than 7 days from that date, when the notice is posted. Why would the village put itself in a position where it has to meet such a tight time frame, i.e. 7 days? I'm just curious. I can see explaining to the owners or whoever comes to the site to see the notice that, you know, after such and such a date, it could happen at any time. I just don't know why you would put yourself in a position of having less than 7 days to actually take those steps. Perhaps someone could explain to me.
I don't know who would be appropriate, please.
Your worship, I believe that would take place following the other motions before it.
I understand.
There would be a systematic process for following up on all of the matters. And by the time the notice is posted, I don't know, Mr. Mall, do you have any comment on that?
I can speak to general practices and remedial action requirements in that if one reaches this stage, there will have been a hiring of a contractor, and then that contractor and the municipality will identify a date by which they intend to do the work. And once that date's known, then there's a notice to let anyone who's on the property or coming to the property know that that is coming.
Yes.
And 7 days is sort of just enough time for them to move out or move some things that they wouldn't want there.
If I, okay, and I would, if I may, through the chair.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Counselor. If you could, I just don't understand. This seems to me to put a limit on the village that it must do it within 7 days. Once you post that, you must take those steps within 7 days, the way I read this. Demolishing those structures in no less than 7 days. I understand the reverse. I can understand it, you know, any time after the next 7 days for the next 2 months, we may do it. I just don't understand why we would put ourselves in a position where we have to complete the work 7 days after we post this notice.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, members of council, your worship. I'm reading it as that the demolition will be in no less than 7 days from the date the notice is posted.
In other words, it will be demolished within 7 days is how I would read that.
In no less than 7 days. So in 10 days, it'll be demolished. In 12 days, it'll be demolished, but giving them at least 7 days. However, wording could be amended to more clearly reflect that intention.
I would be, yeah, pardon me, it may just be that I don't understand the terminology typically used in a legal notification. If less was sooner, I would understand it. No sooner than 7 days, that would be just fine. I could then, as a layperson, understand that they were not going to turn up in the next week, but they could turn up on the 8th day.
If asked, I'd agree. Sooner is probably a better word, as would fewer, I think, less. So
You have your answer, Councillor Drake, if you'd like to amend that, I believe.
I do. I would like to move that the wording under 7B, the phrase no less than, read no fewer than.
I'll second that.
And the amendment is appropriate. So I will open it up to council to look at that. We've got it on the table. It's appropriate, that amendment.
Yeah,
Any-
I second it. Yeah.
Yeah. So any speakers to that? Okay. And do we, Lorna, we'll go to the public to see if we have anybody making comment on that specific issue, correct?
Correct, Your Worship.
Yeah, okay, so I see 2 hands up, so I want to clarify. So I have Ben. So there's amendment on the floor. Do you want to speak on that precise amendment?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen, but if you stray from the topic of that amendment, I'm going to not allow you to go forward. Okay, so please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank
Ben.
you. First of all, I would like to especially thank Councillor Bruce Drake and Sartaj Gruel for going through the details. So from what I gather, correct me if I'm wrong, you have had a very lengthy conversation, communication via emails, you have prepared reports, you have sent it to the homeowner, you have done taken all the possible ways to discuss with the homeowner who's beside, who has a dog. And
Let me just stop you there. You're not on the subject of the amendment.
I'm
We've got a
thanking
lot
the
of,
council.
so please
sorry.
comment on the subject of the amendment, please.
Yes, on the subject of the amendment, I'm talking about that.
Well, I'm listening carefully because if you're not,
If you don't interrupt me, you can listen to what I'm saying.
go
So you
ahead.
just keep interrupting me. Am I allowed to talk?
If you're on the amendment, you can. If not, you're going to be
Thank
off,
you.
please.
So I just heard the Councillor Drake and village lawyer, Mr. Michael Moore, saying that you need to give the homeowner notice. And not only you have to give them notice under the law, you also have to give them 7 days at least. And that question was actually several times asked by Councillor Bruce Drake, that you have to give them, no, it says no less than 7 days. So so it seems that the village is very accommodating and very basically fair with this homeowner, which I appreciate, that which I think the village should do. But it bears the question of what did the village do when they removed the
Okay, I'm gonna now stop you. Okay, we'll just take some time. Can you remove Ben Shulistani from the meeting, please? Move him, and I do not want you to be shouting. I know you're upset, but please, you need to be civil. So Ben Shulistani, you're gone for the night. Thank you very much. So I'm gonna ask.
You discriminate and then you kick people out?
I'm John Shulistani. Are you next on the list? Yes. So John Shulistani, do you want to comment on the amendment, please? And it's a very narrow focus. You want to comment?
Yes, I would like to comment.
Okay, so go ahead, please.
I think it's a discrimination, allowing one homeowner to have a notice and the other doesn't. That you don't like. Thank you.
Okay, Okay, is that your thing? Thank you. Perfect.
Yes. So what's the
Okay.
answer?
So the answer is, this isn't about discrimination. This is about one clause in a specific piece. And you gave me an answer. I've accepted it, and we're now moving on. So John,
Sorry, I asked a question. I didn't receive my answer.
okay, so here's how it works. I've told you that we're finished on that. I'm not prepared to accept questions, different things. So if you say one more word, I'm going to remove you from the meeting. Okay, so we're moving on. Anybody else from the audience that would like to speak? I'm not seeing anybody, so we'll go back on the amendment that has been put forward. Council, I'm going to look to call the question on that. All those in favor, raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
And I note that it carries in the affirmative, and I believe it's unanimous. Okay. So onwards. So we're back to the motion has been, the amendment has been accepted. And so the original has now been amended. So any other questions from council? Council, are we ready to no further discussion on the whole motion from council? Okay, we'll go out to the public on the whole motion, and we'll ask you, if you could please, to restrict it. So I see one person, John Shulistani. You have a comment on
Sure,
this
thank you.
motion, on this specific issue, please?
Yes, thank you. My comment is that my question is that why the council discriminates against one residence and not the other? Why
Okay,
this
and
person
I'm
gets a
gonna
privilege
stop,
and the
I'm gonna
other?
stop, I'm gonna stop you there. There's no basis for you making that. That's not what's here today. What's here today is one person. So I've given you your chance, and I'm gonna remove you from the meeting.
You are a bully, you are a bully, you are a bully.
Thank you. So Ben Sholistani and now John Sholistani are removed from the meeting. Okay, so I see in the public, we have Chloe. And if you could please go ahead. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. And thanks for taking the time to discuss this evening. Are we able to, I mean, this situation is not positive for me either, working through all of this. So do we discuss maybe a means of moving forward together this evening, or do I go through a different process and seeing what can happen within the motion with our property?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is defer to our Chief Administrative Officer, and I believe we'll let her go forward and give a comment on that. Please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to work together with you on this matter. And it was really felt that the only way we could reach some kind of success and clear understanding of what needed to be done would be to bring this forward in a formal manner. So it would be fair for you and fair for us, and we can work forward. We can work on this as we move forward.
Okay, perfect. Because I mean, I'm not sure if council got to read some of my notes, but there was more correspondence than just an email from myself at the end of September. There's been a very ongoing dialogue, and I've really tried to take the time and the effort to work through all of the paperwork and the reading and everything necessary. So I would like to move forward with that. And so do we just want to Lorna, do you and I want to take this maybe offline from this meeting and through email discuss how, like, to make a plan moving forward? Or
Well,
do
I-
we do this evening on this
Sorry,
meeting?
well, yes, I am recommending to council that we do this evening, but that will allow us and with Sartaj the ability to work with you to move forward to ensure that everything follows through. I think the timeline is fair, and it would be good for us to work together on this.
Okay, so if the motion passes this evening, do we, and say I go through the step of objecting or working through this with you, is it 90 days from this evening, or is it 90 days from the point of agreeing on a direction forward? Just so I know what I need to do on my end.
It's 90 days from when we contact you and give you the information, yes. So that would be basically from tomorrow.
From tomorrow, okay, even if I, like, because I can object, or does that extend the process of trying to figure this out, or?
Well, I think we would like to work with you to ensure that this happens, and I think the timeline is fair. And we would certainly work with you to, ensure success for both of us.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. And
Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I want this to be solved as quickly as possible. So this has been incredibly stressful for me. So I would like to move forward positively through this.
And I think what you're hearing from our chief administrative officer and our council is that the intent, and she scoped it out at the beginning, was to move this forward and get things cleared up. But to do that, we believe that we need to pass this motion tonight. And then you've certainly come forth, with sincerity about saying that you'd like to do some things. You look to see what the best route is. But we believe, well, council will decide when we call the question. And then that gives you a chance with, we've got the certainty of the 90 days, but it gives you and our chief administrative officer an opportunity within that 90 days to work together.
Okay, and if there is need for a little bit more time, is that possible after taking some time to work through what exactly needs to happen? Or is it strict to within that 90-day period?
I think we would have to look at that, what your request would be if you wanted to extend it. It's pretty strict within that time period, but like I said, we're willing to work with you.
Okay, thank you.
But I think the piece that's fairly clear is, for whatever reason, this has gone on for a long time. So any adjustments would be within that 90 or based on some pretty significant work, right? So we as council, this is on the table at the direction of council to bring something forward because of the concerns around the fire, because of concerns around a whole range of things. So does that make sense, Chloe?
It does, yes. But some of those building materials are non-flammable. So I completely agree that it needs to be cleaned up. But I think, like, for some of the rock that we want to use for countertops and that kind of thing, I did read in the community bylaw that if I put a tent structure on the building materials, it would still be allowed to be there. And so I think it was anyways, I had written it all down.
Yeah,
Section
we can
5.
have that discussion. For sure.
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking. Like, do we go into this here, or like, do we work it out later? So I think we can work it out later, and everyone's open to working together. So that's that's what I'm understanding from all of this. So
Yeah. So council, thank you, Chloe. Council, the questions on the table. Do you need more discussion? Anyone on council? So I'll look to call the question on the motion that's in front of you. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I know that it carries. It's in the affirmative and it's unanimous. So thank you very much. Thank you for those that have attended and appreciate you being here, Chloe, in person. Okay, so we can now move to item 5.2. And Stuart, I'm going to ask you if you could outline the report, please.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome.
And again.
This is regarding water model quote from WSP. Staff asks that council approve a quote for $25,205 plus GST for payment to WSP. This includes development of a water model and assessment of the capacity for Belcarra's water distribution system at a cost of $19,745. And for construction or conducting field testing in order to calibrate the model results at a cost of $5,460. And that the funds come from the 2022 water capital funding budget. The purpose of the water model study is to develop and assess the long-term infrastructure capacity of the water service area and to carry out a hydrant field testing and model calibration program for the water distribution system. This work is strongly recommended prior to implementing larger improvements in the water distribution system, such as chlorination or looping of the water of the distribution lines. Please see attachment A, and I turn it back to council for consideration and questions, please.
Okay. So council, let's have someone move and second it so it's on the floor for discussion. And then we've got our engineers here. Councillor Drake moving and Councillor
I'll second.
Councillor Clark seconding. So it's now on the floor for discussion. And Lorna, did we want our engineers going to go over this at all, or would just pose questions through council to them?
It's up to you, Your Worship. I don't know, Michael, if you would like to comment any further on the report or just field questions from council.
Yes, Lorna, maybe I can quickly jump in.
Oh,
here.
sure. Okay, Nadine. Sure. Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us again today. It's great joining you today. Yeah, so as you know, obviously we've been working with the village to try to kind of provide any ongoing services or smaller projects with the water system. The water model really, Stuart kind of alluded to it, is really the intention is just to understand the system a little bit better. Things like rechlorination, if you have low chlorine levels at the ends of your lines, if you have low pressures at certain hydrants, then those are things that will likely require some improvement down the road as you plan sort of a replacement of your water mains or your expansions of water mains. And the water model is really just a tool to better understand the system and have something in place as a tool for any further development in the future as well. It really will be something that we'll construct now. If you do the field calibration, that's great, because that means that the information is not just theoretical. And what can happen is that you can continue using that tool into, a decade into the future as you plan upgrades for the rest of the system. So it's for immediate needs as well as sort of long-term needs for the village. Anything to add, Michael? You're kind of the technical expert on this.
No, you summarized it well. It is a tool, so best suited for whatever questions you have at hand. It can really illuminate the limitations of the system, and it can help you once you have an idea of the kind of improvements you want to play around with. The modeling software is fairly robust. You can run different scenarios and see what the kind of effects would be of any kind of capital improvements.
Okay, so I have, thank you very much to both of you. I have Councillor Clark and then followed by Councillor Drake.
I would rather, if Mayor asks, if that's okay, I'll leave my turn for Councillor Drake and come in after him. Because he's the water committee. I think that would be more appropriate. This
Okay,
is the water committee
what-
representatives.
Okay, you've signed off and then we can come
Yeah.
back to you when we canvass. So Councillor
Thank
Drake, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm pleased to see the proposal here. I just have a couple of questions as to the utility. So this gives us a model. Is it fair to say it will allow us to anticipate the impacts on the system of various pressures and flows? I mean, is it a dynamic model of our water system within the village?
It could certainly be set up to do so in the future if you wanted, as a base scope of work. And what's typical for many municipalities is setting up a number of common scenarios. So in this case, what we've outlined is doing average day, maximum day, and peak hour demand conditions. And those are really your worst case conditions. So average day, low demand, so your highest pressures versus say peak hour demand, where you have your highest demands on the system's very stressed, so you would have your lowest pressures. So that range of scenarios kind of gives you a lot of snapshots in time that you can kind of assess the system under. And most municipal design criteria are kind of based around those three scenarios.
Yes. If I may follow up through the chair?
Yes, you can. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Michael, thank you. As you're undoubtedly aware, one of our principal concerns has been the issue of fire flows, and that obviously is related to pressure. So, for example, would this tell us what type of flow we could anticipate at various locations within the village?
Yes, yeah, we can certainly, that is part of the scope of work, is to set it up for a fire flow scenario under a maximum day demand condition. So roughly summer demand conditions, and you'll be able to see at the pinpointed hydrants how much flow you can theoretically anticipate at that hydrant.
Because my anticipation, and it's just that, is that we would ultimately get to a point where we would face some options with given price tags and have to decide what level of risk, frankly, with respect to fire flow, we were prepared to accept. And that, I take it, this would help us. Like, I'm not anticipating that we're going to look at our system is going to appear highly robust when it comes to fire flow. It is more likely to be barely acceptable, my guess is, because this was designed primarily to provide potable water. Obviously, we want to maximize our capacity for fire flow as well. So I take it, so what seems relevant to me is that it will give us an indication of our pressure level at various points in the village. Will it tell us, will it allow us to get an estimate of the capacity we could take from the District of North Vancouver? As you know, we have a particular fire flow from them, which they've modestly increased in recent years. What might be a low-cost option for us is to increase that, but obviously it's subject to the capacity of the system. Now, I know it's not a simple question, but would this model allow us to make some estimates as to what we could accommodate if it was available?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Councillor
Okay,
Drake,
yeah.
if I may add a few additional notes here as well. Is that okay, Mayor
I was
Ross?
just going to
Yes,
say,
please.
go ahead, please.
Okay,
Thanks for
excellent.
identifying, but we'd love to hear from you.
Excellent.
Okay.
The one other item I know it's been brought up through council and the water committee as well has been the water age discussion and any need for
Yes.
reformation potentially. So
Mhm.
that also will be something that we'll have a little bit more information on with this model at hand. We can do a water age assessment as part of the scope. It is included. And that actually really what that would help is, as Stuart and Lorna have probably spoken to, you can increase your reservoir levels as much as you want and fill that whole thing up the entire time. But what you'll face is if you have low demands, then water just sits there for a long period of time, potentially
Exactly.
leading to low chlorine. So as issues that you all already are quite familiar with. So the water age assessment, that will also be another component that I think is beneficial to the village through that assessment, getting a bit more information on that. And should it
Yes.
come down to a point where you feel like the approach is to increase, the reservoir levels, then we'll be able to facilitate sort of looking at that chlorination requirements as well, also aided by this tool. So just one more thing to add.
Yeah, thank you for raising that, because that is, of course, that's in the introduction to the piece for council. I should have picked that up. Absolutely. It's
Of
one of the
course.
suggestions that our hardworking committee had come up
Mhm.
with as something we should look at.
Mhm.
And this will give us information as to the practicality and risk, because it's fairly clear from Fraser Health that they would prefer we had more options than simply draining more water when our chlorine levels look marginal. I should add, as the water committee itself noted, that this system has, with the very capable efforts of staff, has been very successful in providing potable water to a community that did not have that. What's more questionable is its capacity to support firefighting. Thank you.
Hey, Councillor Drake, thank you very much. And thank you, Nagin and Michael, for your answers. And Councillor Clark, go ahead, please. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Well, first, thank you for the report. I truly get excited when I see something from the water engineers on this, because we've been waiting for so long. So I get excited. As Councillor Drake said, I think it's important to note, I'll just, say it's although it was installed for potable water, it's the water we use for firefighting as well. When I see here on the project background, it says the village's water system is supplied by a connection to the district of North Vancouver and provides potable drinking water. Potable drinking water and firefighting water. So I guess it would be the thing. Will we know, and I guess the question is through the chair to Lorna or Nagin or Michael, is part of this, are we going to know how much flow the pipes underneath the ocean there connecting from North Van can handle as they are right now?
Would you like me to comment on that?
Yeah, please, Nagin, go ahead. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So Councillor Clark, I believe the reports may have come through council at some point as well, but the DMV has done their modeling similar to what we're proposing for Belcarra. They have their own water model, which allows them to kind of run scenarios for themselves. And that was the effort that the village had gone through, I believe maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, to ask DMV to provide some thoughts on what their capacity to provide water was. I mean, purely from looking at pipe sizes, the 2 pipe sizes that were under Indian Arm, I believe at the time in 2010, were designed for about 14 liters per second flow. I know that I think at the time the contract was 14 liters per second. There is likely some, capacity safety in there as well. So I won't say exactly what the flow calculations are because we haven't completed those yet. But I know that the flows from DMV had increased over the years and the village had seen that they had actually more capacity to draw. On the DMV side, one question is obviously the pipe that's providing water to the node where Belcarra ties into, but then upstream of that as well, their capacity to be able to provide higher flows while maintaining their own fire safety and all of that. So it's unfortunately a bit more complicated because the DMV, obviously they need to protect their own system as well. In terms of the capacity of the 2 pipes under Indian Arm, we have requested on direction from Lorna here that DMV provide us some pressure numbers based on their modeling at the point where the DMV system stops and the Belcarra system starts. And with those numbers, we'll be able to simulate a couple of calculations where we can have numbers, again, theoretical with proper calculations of what that capacity could be, depending on how much pressure DMV can provide in that point where Belcarra ties in. So that's another piece that actually is already somewhat in the works, and we're just waiting for some input from the DMV as well. That part should be a very quick calculation. It can tie into this as well, but certainly just needing those pressures from the DMV has been a bit of a pinch point on that, which we're working on to get that information.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Regardless, I would be really interested, regardless of what they can provide, I would be really interested in knowing how much can our pipes handle, right? So it could be, okay. The other thing here that worries me a bit. So on your report, if I may continue, Mayor Ross, there is.
Why don't you go one more question and then we'll slip out to the other councillors if we can.
Fair enough.
Yep. Thank you.
So there's a part here that says limitation, that he talks about in developing this fee estimate, WSP have assumed that the data provided by the village will be fit for purpose and readily used for developed hydraulic model. Well, I do have concerns about this because there was many questions that at the time the water committee could not get answers from. So I'm concerned, like if you run into a situation like that where you need an information and you don't have and you can't provide, what can it be done then to be able to provide that information?
Nagin, did you want to field that through?
Yeah, I think Michael's the right person for this.
Okay, Michael, go ahead. Thank you.
I would just say it's when we provide the report, we provide a full narrative of the model build, the calibration, and the analysis. And this happens often. There might be incomplete record drawings or what be the case. We just state limitations and we state assumptions. So it's important to note that a hydraulic model is just a tool. It's as good as the data that you can put into it. One of the main, one of the great benefits to doing a model calibration field testing exercise is to test some of these assumptions. So we have pipes that we don't know quite the age of and what roughness factors we should be using, or the material might be unknown and we're making assumptions on it. The field testing does help. The big things that typically come up is setting boundary conditions. And in this case, it's just really a matter of talking to DNV to figure out exactly how we want to set the boundaries.
Okay,
so I'm not anticipating that there's going to be massive, huge data gaps. If there's drawings, if there's CAD files that we can use to generate the model, and to draw the pipes and delineate everything, then we should be in an okay spot. There's always a lot of public data available to help supplement model build. I'm thinking contour data that's available, or DM or elevation files that are available publicly. So, and we'll state our assumptions and limitations. And it's not going to be at the very end when we give you the report and say, we're like 10% confident in the results. We're going to be very upfront about it. We're going to involve the village early on to make sure that we plug any kind of gaps. And it could be as simple as, these 10 pipes, something seems off. We'll send off an email like, oh yeah, well, we did a improvement 2 years ago, and here's some updates that we didn't include.
Okay. Yeah, that does it for me for now. Thank you. I'm just still concerned about that. So I'm hoping you find what you're looking for. Thank you.
Yeah. So if we decide to go ahead and move this, we'll start to find that out. But Councillor Drake, we'll go to you, and then we're going to go to, I believe Sherry Chisholm is there. So Councillor Drake, we'll swing out.
That's great. Thank you. No, I think I've covered my question. Sorry. The question I had has now been responded to.
Okay, perfect. Good. Okay, Sherry Chisholm, go ahead, please. Welcome.
Are we open now? Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear me.
Who's on, please? Is it Sherry or Jim?
It's Jim.
Okay, good.
Now, with regards to this report that they're building here, of the 31 questions that were asked for, are all of those questions being covered off in this $25,000 program?
Nagin?
Sorry, Mayor Ross, maybe I missed something. 31 questions. Can you elaborate on that reference, please?
There were 31 questions that were presented from the Water Committee to the council and so forth, and I presumed they were going to be passed on to the engineering group, which is you, I believe. Were they all passed on to you in their entirety, or was there just a portion of them asked for? There was 31 of them, including, of course, that flow capacity, but that's just one of many.
Your worship, if I may intervene here, I would just say, that many of the questions are being handled by staff. The engineering questions are definitely being managed with our engineers.
Okay.
Can we get a list of which ones went where?
Sure, we'll bring that back for sure.
Okay, thanks very much. And Jim and Joe, you're next up, Joe. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the report, and interesting. And obviously we've got to move forward on this thing. And so mine is just a broader concern, because I tend to be a chicken and the egg kind of guy. It'll be interesting to know where those tanks are and where the pipes are, and to make sure the calibrations are right between North Vancouver and Belcarroll. I'm sure that'll all come out in it. But my concern is a little bit this way, and I guess the engineers probably can't answer that, but it seems I read somewhere about some concerns about the actual willingness or ability for North Vancouver to increase that supply. So my concern is about doing all this work and finding out where we are, and then finding out that, well, you know what, that's great, we can do it. Now, is that water available, or North Vancouver, the Metro, whoever's responsible for that, are they able to supply that? So I don't know who's best to answer that question, but I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Okay, do we have one of the engineers on that, or?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that, Mayor Ross, if you'd like.
Thank you.
Joe, I couldn't agree more. The chicken and the egg certainly is how much water can Belcarra take if DMV had endless supply of water, and if Belcarra had endless capacity, how much water can DMV give, right? That's the balancing act, both from a physical technical capacity and from a contractual obligation to serve the population from both ends. So certainly agree with that piece. What I would say is the proposal that's in front of council right now, actually, this is a tool that's beneficial to Belcarra, whether we're including the DMV portion or not, because what it will allow is, assuming some flow from DMV, at some point your reservoir is full of water, at some point you need to get that water to the residents. So this model is by no means exclusively to address the question about the DMV supply. And it's actually, I would argue that most of it will actually pertain to existing hydrants, existing end of lines, right? Just making sure that the system is providing what it needs to its residents, assuming there is a supply. But absolutely, there's the other piece of, I guess the DMV question becomes more of a firefighting question now, because needless to say, Belcarra has potable water supply, and I believe it's been serving the community as hoped. In terms of potable water use. So that question is a much faster question to answer. It's not $25,000. We have to spend half a day and calculate some numbers with the proper input to answer that question. And certainly I would say that the DMV side of things I won't speak to, because it's not something I'm as familiar with as staff certainly are. But DMV also has their limitations from a technical capacity standpoint, and how they've modeled this when they've looked at how much water they can give Belcarra is, can they serve a fire on their side and then also give more water to Belcarra? So they're really ensuring that they can provide the service they've promised to their tax base as well. So it's more than just a technical capacity, and rest assured that this $25,000 is not for one calculation.
Thank you very much. I think that if I may, Mayor Ross, thank you. That answers my question, and very well, actually, right? Because it's a negotiation chip we would need to have done before we could even consider the next step. So I get the chicken and the egg answer. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Fully supported. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks very much, Joe. So we're finished with the public. We're returning to council. So we have a motion on the floor. So why don't we speak to anybody have any, we've had a number of comments, but any further comments on this? So I'll take one person at a time, and then when everybody's had one go, let's look to move this. Okay. So Councillor, I've got Councillor Clark, you're on the top of the list. So go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Russ. I guess that's my last comment. Okay, so just to address Jim Chisholm's question. So there is a list of 31 motions passed by council. I'm also, and I guess the engineers don't have that list, but I'm also interested in knowing, perhaps providing that list to the engineers, because perhaps we'll know that with this modeling, they might be able to address other motions in that report as well. With this one model and this one amount of money. I'm just concerned because that's the one motion is costing us that much money, and there's another 29 or so to go. So, or 30, right? So I think it's important that the engineers have that, because if any of those motions will be covered by this modeling, it will be great for us councillors to know. Thank you very much.
So let's steer that to our Chief Administrative Officer, Lorna.
Yes, Your Worship, we'll absolutely share that list with our engineers.
Okay, good. Thanks very much. And Councillor Drake, and then Councillor Snell, and then we're ready to move the question.
Great.
Councillor Drake, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And Caroline, good suggestion, Councillor Clark. But I do note that just quickly jotting down, I mean, this study gives us very useful information on no less than 5 topics, and that's extremely valuable. I'm also very appreciative of being in a position where we have some actual engineering data to move forward, because if we're going to have discussions with the District of North Vancouver, it can't just be off the top of our heads, and it can't just be guessing. This will give us some real data, some actual engineering estimates that will make the discussion much more meaningful. I do empathize with the challenge of negotiating with North Vancouver. I mean, they didn't design their system to take on Belcarra, so I have no doubt that there may be some challenges in getting additional flows, but our own estimates, and I look forward to hearing from the engineers when we get to the point where we've got this model, is that, relatively modest increase in that flow could have quite an impact on our firefighting capacity here. Thank you. So there's no question there, Your Worship, and I'll step off at this point.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much then. Councillor Snell, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I certainly support spending money, moving this project ahead with engineers. We've waited a long time to get going. But I'm very cognizant of the amount of hard work that was done by the Water Committee over the last 3 years. They've been struggling to get information. And I hope that a lot of what they have been able to pass on to staff and council is of value to the engineers moving forward. And I'd like to think that they have taken a good close look at what the Water Committee provided, because that really did. They are responsible for jump-starting this whole process, and I would like to think that a lot of the information and conclusions they reached are of some real value now moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Snell. And I'll just close. I'm very appreciative. Councillor Snell, you make a good point about all the valuable work, and I certainly saw that coming in. And we're now at the point where we're making forward movement on this, and that's very critical. And I think that's a credit to WSP for coming in, and Lorna for really kind of starting to move things forward. And she's indicated to me that she's very cognizant of trying to report out as requested once a month by council, but she's very clear that there's a report out today. If next meeting there's something to go on, she will put that on. We're getting close to, when the new council came forward last January. And one of the things we talked about is moving this issue forward. And I think we're making some real headway. So thank you to staff. Thank you to the engineers. Thank you to all the committee members. And I'll look to close off and then take my hand down and look to call the question. All those in favor on council?
Aye.
The motion?
Aye.
And I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I believe that it carries in the affirmative and it's unanimous. So thank you very much. Okay, so to our engineers, we give you that wonderful invite. Thank you very much for being here, all your work, but you have no obligation to stay. A matter of fact, I think everybody here understands if you go forward to different things for tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Yeah, we'll see you again. Thank you. So, Paul, did you have some things to put up on the mayor's report, or? If not, I'll just. Oh.
Yes, she does, Your Worship.
Okay,
She's
good.
working on it.
So I just, so there's a mayor's food bank challenge that's come up. We've just been contacted by the sheriff and looking for us to participate, and actually looking for all the mayors from Vancouver to Chilliwack to come forward and to assist. And 5 mayors last year went forward and they did some wonderful things from a perspective of our community. Chair Claire McLean shares with us that the amount of people they're providing food for on a regular basis is 2,000 people in our community. And so if we can just run through some of the things here quickly, Paul, if we could, and people can have a quick look. That's the look back at 2021, what the 5 mayors did, and really kudos for them. And then if you could keep running through. And then the Mayor's Food Bank Challenge, as I've said, they're looking to involve everybody. Next slide, please. Nope. Yes. So these are some of the things they're looking to coordinate, and they would have cities up and things like that, and villages and different places. And obviously they're looking, if they can, to get everybody in. If you go to the next one, and they've got roles and responsibility. The Greater Vancouver Food Bank is kind of the overall planner and supporter on this, and a fair amount of things there. If you could go to the next one, please, Paula. And then there's some roles and responsibilities of the local food bank, and clearly Share is on top of this. They've reached out to us and have asked us to consider this. If you go to the next one, please. And then they've got the roles and responsibilities of the participating mayor and team and/or team. And we'll go to the next one. There's a tentative timeline. And I think, do we have one more, that note they sent us?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask Paula to put this up. And so those parts there, I think there's no doubt, and this council has supported Chair before. We've been involved in pieces. I do have a concern. And so on this one, at this point, I'm not going to look to try and involve us as a community, as a council. Not that there isn't tremendous reason to do it. I just worry that our council has, and our staff has, a lot of things right on the go, and we're pushing really hard on the things that we did in the strategic plan and moving them forward. But I just want to talk to you and show you the note from Claire, and just the other part in terms of what they're looking to raise, right? But these words: we're so grateful for the Village of Belcarre's ongoing support of Share, and we appreciate how committed you and the Belcarre Council are to considering the needs of vulnerable members of our community. We think this campaign would be an excellent opportunity to raise awareness of the ongoing needs of our community members and to engage folks in a fun way to support the food bank. And there they talk about the 2,000 people that they support each month. And those are people without the options we have. So she's putting out that she really respects what we do. And I'm going to be in touch with her and say at this point, I think it's always useful to talk about these things. It's always useful to put them out, because I know one person in the communities spoke about a time we'd put something in and we didn't have a forward initiative on that, but they said, you know, next time I was in the grocery store, I bought one of those packets just because of what was said. So I believe right now I'm going to leave this without a recommendation. I'm going to leave it as hopefully it may have given some people in the community a desire to do something individually. It may have encouraged a counselor to think about maybe possibly assisting. And I also want to talk to Claire to do it, see if there's some way we can do it that isn't too much of a draw on our staff. So at this point, I'm going to say I think it's a wonderful piece, but at this point, we're just going to hold on it. So I'll now go to the second item on my mayor's report. Thank you very much, Paula. Is a Metro Vancouver Water Committee and Parks Committee. So Sav Dollywall, the chair. Last year, I was extremely lucky that I came in and Carolina Clark, Councillor Clark, was on some committees carrying on from where the council had reduced in size. We had a very good discussion, and I was very grateful that she was willing to carry on. And when I spoke with the chair and he talked about, you know, kind of what had happened because of the day, I was able to report that she and I were absolutely together on this. So I want to really thank her for her work on that. And Chair Dollywall has asked me to come on for the Water Committee and the Parks Committee, and I'm enjoying that. I will look to engage with Councillor Clark at particular times when there are things, but I really want to thank and in a public way acknowledge her service. And I will look to update you going forward. And then I'd like to finish just simply by my third and final item. And I just want to thank again all the frontline workers. I think we're seeing, you know, with COVID and Omicron and things like that, we are seeing things not change on a daily basis, but we're seeing them almost change on an hourly basis. And I know there's some tremendous fatigue, and none has felt greater than particular in our health workers, many who come from Belcarre. So publicly, I wanted to thank them for the work that they're doing to help us keep safe. So if there's any questions, seeing none, we will look to Lorna's got a report from anybody else on Councillor Drake. Do you have anything
I'm
you'd
sorry.
like to report out?
Yeah, if I could,
Yep,
I'm sorry, I
please
just
go
wanted,
ahead.
I wanted to comment on the mayor's initiative and your comment around individuals. I mean, we're a very small community, but I do think it might be wise to even just send out a note with our electronic distribution, encouraging people to take the time to consider making a purchase next time they're shopping, because every donation counts. And I know it's something, if we just raise the topic, some people undoubtedly will take notice of it and recognize that it's particularly challenging for a number of people at the moment.
Yeah, and Ruth and I didn't talk, but I did want to say that I think we will put something out, and I'll just hold this up right now. I don't know if you can you see that? It's
You have to hold it still for a minute because it's disappearing with the
okay. Is it holding still?
There it goes. Share. You can see the share. I can see the share. I don't know how other people are, but it's flicking in and out because of the background.
Yeah. So what I will tell you, it's a lovely sweatshirt, and we'll find out a way by putting something out on the website just to say that if people want to connect and do it individually, we may come back with a slightly different variation, but they anoint you when you're mayor with a number of sweatshirts and socks and different things. And I always like to find a good home. So we'll find someone in a way of, in a fair way of getting that sweatshirt out to one of our great community residents, many I know who are already doing that valuable work. So Lorna, and
yes,
yeah.
Yeah, you could do just nothing more than ask people to identify when they made a contribution. We could just do a draw. I mean, I think that's a great idea.
I think that, yeah, and that's probably the fair. So I'll work with Paul and Lorna on that, and that can be something out on the website. And we're trying to very minimize it for staff, but I think you're right, Bruce, once we get it out to our community, and there is a significant need out there. So anybody else with a report? If not, then I think we are, Lorna, do you have a report?
Yes, I do, Your Worship.
Okay.
So I'll just start off by saying that on January 18th, during a routine check, staff noticed a fluctuating valve at Strathcona for the water system. So Brad and Lance attended the site to assess the problem. And it was also an opportunity for Lance to visit the Strathcona site as part of his ongoing training. And considerable amount of consultation and work has taken place with WSP, Stewart on this matter. And the reservoir is filling as required, and work is continuing on correcting a malfunctioning sensor. And this data is monitored continually by the staff, and the reservoir is kept full on the weekend just to ensure that the water levels are where they should be. But as I said, the SCADA is monitored all the time. So staff are working to correct this malfunctioning electronic feature, whatever it is. So, and then I just want to remind everybody that the official community plan committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 26th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. The agenda is on the website. Residents are welcome to observe the committee meeting, and this is the organizational meeting of the OCP committee and the introduction of everyone. And also, I would just provide a Fraser Health update. Mayor Ross and I frequently, on a regular basis, attend Zoom meetings with Fraser Health, and we attended a meeting on Friday, January 21st, to receive an update on the COVID situation. And the key messages were to do your part to slow the spread of Omicron, to get vaccinated, if sick, stay home, wear your mask, clean your hands, follow public health orders, and keep your distance. The village office continues to operate under COVID restrictions as they have since March of 2020. The change in the guidelines this past week is that gyms are now open. And with regard to testing guidance, tested is most needed for people who have symptoms of COVID-19 and are at risk of more serious disease and live or work in a high risk setting, such as medical settings. Updated information is available at the Fraser Health website, WorkSafe BC. There are links on, Village of Alcara website. And that's all I have to report at the moment, Your Worship.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I may just thank you for that excellent report, but I know that you were probably just holding it back a bit, but we wanted to acknowledge again our council member, who's our counselor support to that OCP, and that's Councillor Clark. So she'll be with you on Wednesday night. And we're looking forward to just an outstanding process. And thank you for your work, Lorna and staff, to prepare for that. I know there was some, I believe there was some binder preparation going on, and I know Councillor Clark's preparing to help support that committee. So thank you. We have,
Mayor
go
Ross.
ahead, Councillor Clark, go ahead.
May I ask a couple of questions, please, through the chair to Lorna?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lorna, you talked about what you were saying about I heard you saying an update about the tank. And is that the seismic valve that you're talking about that they're looking into fixing?
No, it is not the seismic valve.
Oh, okay. Has that been fixed or no?
I don't know if the seismic valve has been fixed, no.
Okay. So the other question I have, so the first meeting of the OCP committee will be Wednesday. Where will the Zoom link be posted for the public to watch if they wish? Will be on the website, right?
Yes, on the website, right at the top of our website, it says Official Community Plan Committee, and there's a link that takes you to the page that's been set up for the OCP committee.
Okay, perfect. So just so it's clear to the public, if you want to watch, just go to the website, click on the link.
Yeah, and it's on the agenda. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll proceed to bylaw 8.1.
I think I have my hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Snell. Missed you, but go ahead. Never
Yes.
want to miss you.
That's quite an extensive report that we've just received from Lorna, and I'm through the chair. It's more of a comment. When we got together about a year ago, we looked at all the items on the strategic list, and one of the items we identified was the extreme workload that staff had undertaken, and it's amazing they stay on top of absolutely everything, and this is a good example here. We've got item G, the OCP review committee, all the work that's going on there. We've got 18 strategic planning items being worked on, another 31 committee items. That's an incredible workload that staff are coping with at the administrative level. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can do as a council to try and make the administrative roles somewhat less. We're not the village we were a decade ago, and we have huge infrastructure now compared to all that time back. And I just wonder that if we're doing things as efficiently as we possibly could to stay on top of everything, works engineering, the infrastructure, and the administration side of things is huge, as we're seeing. I would hate to to have our staff blow their brains out because they've just got too much work. Thank you. It's more of a comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that and your acknowledgement of the work that staff does. And they do a lot and they do it with a very small staff. So anyways, let's go to 8.1 right now, the financial plan bylaw number 594, 2021. And we will look to, it's adopted by council on this date. So we'll look to have a motion put forward on that, please.
I'll move the motion.
Councillor Drake moving. Councillor the Village of Belcarra, 5-year 2026 financial plan bylaw number 594, 2021 be adopted. And we need a seconder or it's. Thank you, Councillor Wilder. So it's now on the floor for discussion, first by council, then we'll go to the public. So anyone on council with any contribution? Okay, seeing none, we'll go out to the public, see if there's anybody there. Okay, we're going back to council right now. Any discussion on this? Any thoughts? Seeing none, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I note that it's carried and it's unanimous in the affirmative. Okay, so we're now on to item 8.2, bylaw number 595, 2021, which is the council indemnity bylaw, and it's up for adoption tonight. So we'll look for a councillor to move it. Councillor Drake, thank you very much. And look into any of the other three councillors would like to second this.
I shall.
Thank you, Councillor Wilder. So it's now on the floor for discussion. Any discussion by council? Seeing none, I'll go to the public. I'm not seeing any input from the public, so we're back to council. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, or observations? If not, I will look to call bylaw number 595, 2021. Be adopted by council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I note that it's carried in the affirmative and it's unanimous. So we're now on to correspondence and proclamation. So we have the correspondent items 9.1 to 9.5 be received.
Move.
And a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Drake. So we have Councillor Wilder and Councillor Drake. So any discussion on that? From the council, seeing none. Any discussion on that from people in the audience? Seeing none, I'll return and look to council. Any last items for discussion? Seeing none, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor of that? Okay. Good, and we're now on to action items. We have one from Sav Dollywall, Chair of Vancouver Metro, letter dated December 15, 2021, regarding the Race to Zero initiative. There's a full report available at the board office, and we're seeking a counselor to do that. So let's just do a quick thing. Any counselor have an interest to be on that committee? Okay, so we will probably leave that not filled right now and see if anybody would like to step up at some point. I don't see anybody moving it or seconding it. So we will move on to item 9.2, which is from Isabel Lee, BC Public Relations and Communications Advisor, BC Council, Girl Guides of Canada, regarding the guiding lights across BC, February 22nd, 22. Anybody looking to move and second to that?
I'll move.
Councillor Drake moving. Councillor Snell seconding. It's on the floor. if you're looking at your notes, they're looking at doing something to celebrate the Girl Guides in a way that's safe for the Girl Guides, also safe for the new COVID thing. So any input from council? Not seeing any, we'll go out to the public. Taking a look from the public, not seeing any. We'll return to council. Any questions, thoughts, observations? I'll look to call the question on that. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
And I note that it carries in the affirmative and it's unanimous. Thank you. And we're on
And
for,
can I make one comment?
yeah, absolutely you can. Go ahead.
This is just a comment for me through the chair to Dave Warren,
Yes,
because we've moved this. Possibly he would like to discuss with Crab about posting something on the community side because it's a community effort. So
yep,
for that day, so that it reminds everybody about Blue Light Day.
yes.
So I think Dave, there he is. Hi, David. Anyways, he will discuss that with his directors, whether they want to take that initiative or not.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up,
date?
Councillor Wilder.
I'm
And
sorry,
we'll-
David, you said?
I was asleep. What was the date?
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thanks, David.
Okay, and I see Jim or Sherry.
It's Sherry speaking. It seems to me that we have to keep remembering that CRAB is a group to socialize the village and get the community together. And I don't see the Girl Guides coming into that. If we're going to have a gathering, let's have a gathering for the people to get together.
Okay, well, appreciate your comment, Sherry. Thank you very much. So we're on to now information items. Hang on a quick sec. 9.5, and it was a late item added to the agenda from Gary Palmer Isaac, Chair Board of Education, School District Number 43, Coquitlam, letter dated October 28, 2021, regarding the 2022 Mental Health Task Force. And we're looking for a motion, Councillor Wilder, to be appointed to the School District Number 43, Coquitlam 2022 Mental Health Task Force. And I believe you had graciously stepped up before, Councillor Wilder. So if we can get someone to move it.
I'll move
see
that.
Councillor Clark moving, and I see Councillor Snell seconding it. So any discussion on this? Okay, anything going out to the audience? Not seeing any. I'd just like to, before I call the question, just thank Councillor Wilder very much. An incredibly important topic at any time, but in particular during the challenging times we're in right now. So thank you for stepping forward and representing our council. And I look forward to.
It'll be my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, all those in favor? And I note that it carries and in the affirmative, and it is unanimous. So we're on to new business. Any council members with any new business? Not seeing any. We're on to public question period. So we will start with, as we do, with questions to do with things that are first on the agenda. And then we'll go from beyond there. So Sherry.
Oh, my question is not on the agenda, so I'll wait.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So let's canvas.
Can I just interject? I apologize. Did we skip over new business? There is no new business? Is there no new business?
Ask council if there was any new business. There wasn't. So.
Okay, sorry, I.
Yeah, I think we did go over it.
Okay, good. That's fine. Thank you. So we're on to 11. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Okay, and Sherry, you graciously said yours is not on. So let's canvas if there's anybody with something on that's on the agenda. And if there isn't, I'll make 1 call, 2 calls, and 3 calls for things that are on the agenda. So we'll say that that's now over, and we'll look to go to Sherry for something that I believe is not on the agenda. Okay? thank you for waiting, and go ahead, please.
Good. I guess my question is to Bruce Drake and to Carolina Clark. I understand that you two counselors will be discussing docs and what's going to happen from here on in.
Yeah, so let me, so let me just walk my way through this, Sherry, not to stop you.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but 3 members of this council are not part of that group. So if it's more than just simply you're in charge of it and will you be getting back to us later, then I think we need to, or I need to excuse myself, and then the others will make their choice. So is it just an overall question, or is it a specific one?
Well, probably fairly specific.
Okay, so I think at this point, I will look to continue to declare my conflict that has now been put forward in a stronger term by the Supreme Court Justice, who has said that in Belcare, the 3 counselors did the correct thing to step aside, but the council group that is going to be doing this is Councillor Drake and Councillor Clark. So I will excuse myself since there are no questions back. I will go and I will be gone for the night. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I just, for 1 second, say something because my hand was up first? Sherry, the moment that you do this and this happens, we lose quorum on this meeting. We can only talk about this once Bruce Drake and I are in another meeting. Is that correct, Lorna?
That's correct. And
So
I
as
was
soon-
going to say for everyone to just be assured this information will be brought back in a timely manner. We just haven't established it yet.
Yes, so if you lose quorum right now, the meeting is over and nobody can ask anything anymore. So we already
Okay,
lost the
well,
mayor.
Yeah, so I guess
It's a very, I'm
I can't
sorry,
go
it's
there.
a very tricky situation. So
Yes,
every
it
time
is.
this happens, the meeting is over. So we really need to be aware of that because then that cuts time from the other speakers if there's anybody that wants to ask questions, because that's just
Yeah,
how
I
the community
understand.
charter works. Yeah.
So I will withdraw my questions, but
Okay.
ask, when am I going to be able to openly ask my questions of you and Bruce?
Lorna, do you want to respond this?
I'm sorry, we haven't established a timeline yet, but we will be doing that as soon as we can in the very near future. Yeah.
So just to complete that answer, once you see that in the agenda, then what's going to happen is all the 3 counselors are going to leave, and then it will be just Bruce and I.
Okay.
And that's when everybody will be able to ask questions, because right now we can't answer. Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as we lose quorum, meeting's over. So.
Okay, you explained. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who's chairing now? Who is the
We
deputy
lost,
mayor?
did we lose Jamie?
Yes,
Yeah, we've
we
lost
did.
you.
Yeah, we did.
Who's acting now?
But she
I
went
think-
through
I
the
see,
question,
no,
so
Jamie's still
I
there.
can stay
see
in
Oh,
now?
can we bring him back? Yeah. let's
Yeah,
bring him
bring
back.
him back.
Jamie's still in the meeting. I can see him.
I
Oh,
can't
okay.
see him. Oh, there he is
He's
over there.
gone off
Oh, but
camera.
his video's off.
Yeah.
But Paula, you didn't remove him? There he is.
Okay, there he is. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'll remove my
I,
hand.
so I understand something's occurred, correct?
That's correct, your worship. Yes. So the topic has been withdrawn.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So is Sherry still on?
Yes.
Okay,
Still there.
well, I want to thank her for how she presented that. And I think that was very fair to stand aside if there were any other people that wanted to ask things about it. So that was helpful. So thank you. Okay, do we have anybody else with a question?
Bruce has his hand up.
Yep, go ahead, Bruce.
I'm just confirming my membership in that club. Sorry, it was, Carolina explained the situation very well. I was going to do something a little less effective for Sherry, so I'll take my hand out.
Okay, so I would look at this point to, I believe that we are in a position right now that we could at 8:35.
Wow.
we could
Wow.
adjourn
Yeah.
this meeting.
Motion
So
to
I'll-
adjourn.
That, I was just going to say, that was quick. Some of the other motions a little delayed. We have Councillor Wilder and Councillor Clark moving adjournment. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
And I note that it carries unanimously. It was agreed to really quickly. So thank you to all our
Thank you,
viewing
everybody.
audience for coming and
Thank
joining
you.
us tonight. And thanks to staff
Thank
for
you.
all your
Bye.
work. Take care, everybody.
Yes,
Thank
thank you,
you.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.